Nice. I'll put that in the video.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I worked very hard for that part. I've been training since I was born.
When should I put it in the video? In the middle? In the end?
Before the intro.
Okay.
So everyone's just introduced by that choking sound.
Every single time I post another one of these videos, I get a million comments saying that the series is dead. It's not dead. It's never gonna be dead. I am determined to finish it, even if it takes me 20 years. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. As you can probably tell, I am continuing my alphabetical order series today. It was originated by drawing with waffles, and I decided to do it because it seems like a really fun challenge and I want to see more people doing it. Anyways, when I got to the letter D, I knew exactly which character I wanted to make because I've talked about it in my last video, or not, depending on when this video goes up. I really used to love Soul Eater, and I don't watch it as much anymore. I did rewatch it recently. I still enjoyed it, but definitely not as much as I did when I was like 13 to 15. I think was the ages that I was kind of obsessed with it, but my favorite character was Death the Kid. He's still my favorite character. I love him. I think he's a great character, so of course he had to be the character to represent the letter D for me. There are definitely other characters that I really like. I think this is the only character from Soul Eater though that's gonna be in this series just because I have sort of fallen out with it a little bit, but I did want to include at least one because it does hold quite a special place in my heart, so I had to draw at least one, and of course that was Death the Kid. Because it's been so long since I've drawn any of the Soul Eater characters, I kind of struggled at first picking like a pose and stuff. I wanted to go with something a little bit more extra because, well, he's Death the Kid, but I don't know. I couldn't really think of anything, plus I've talked about before in these alphabetical order videos that I want all of them to seem kind of consistent, so they're all going to be on the same size canvas, and I want to include the letter for all of them, and I want them to be kind of like sitting down. Obviously he's kind of crouching in this drawing, but I wanted them to be a little bit consistent. Plus I feel like he kind of goes back and forth between being like super extra and very like calm and reserved, so I think this can just represent that more calm side of his personality. Now, of course, I wanted the pose to be kind of symmetrical because he's Death the Kid, and he would be very upset with me if I did not do that. But also, something about art to keep in mind is like symmetry can make a piece look off. Like there are definitely times where you need that, but for this piece I just didn't really want to do that because I personally don't like very symmetrical looking stuff. If you draw something very symmetrical, it can seem very like unnatural, and sometimes that's needed. Like if you're drawing like a building or something, that would probably be more symmetrical, or if you're making like a piece of technology or something, like a robot or whatever, like that would probably be more symmetrical. But when it comes to natural things, if something is very symmetrical, it can be very unnatural looking. And so since he's a person who's alive, I didn't want to make it symmetrical because it would just make the pose seem really stiff and unnatural. So the pose that I thought of, I decided to make it generally symmetrical, but then make it from a slightly skewed angle. If you looked at him from the front, he would be a pretty symmetrical looking person, but I decided to make the angle a little bit more of a 3/4 angle just to make it a little bit more interesting. As soon as I thumbnailed this, I thought that it fit the criteria that I had set. What word did I just say? The criteria that I had set for myself. So I got right to drawing. Since it has been a while since I've drawn him, I really had to figure out how to draw him in my art style. I think the last time I drew him was way back when I was first starting to find my art style, but I haven't drawn him anytime recently, so I definitely had to struggle a little bit to try and make him look like him and just to draw him in general. Soul Eater has a very different aesthetic from the things that I normally draw, so that was definitely interesting to try and capture. I think the main difference is the hair, because Soul Eater has like not necessarily sharp but pretty simplistic hair, and I do not. I don't draw that kind of stuff, so that was definitely interesting. I remember one thing that I really struggled with was his like the little pieces in the back of his head that like curl up. I made those too big at first, and so throughout the drawing I just kind of I was gonna withered them down. I don't know if that's how I would describe that, but I made them smaller. And there's just a lot different from the Soul Eater style from my own, so it was very interesting. Another thing that I kind of struggled with in his design is his color scheme, because he has a very obvious color scheme of just black and white. and I normally don't draw those kinds of color schemes. I usually have at least 3 colors, I think, in a lot of my drawings, at least like off the top of my head. This is very like out of the ordinary for me. I wouldn't normally draw a character wearing like black shirt, black pants. I mean, he has a white shirt, but black jacket, black pants, black shoes, black hair. Like, I don't do that. I just like to break it up. And so I decided to make each of them like a little bit of a different tone. I made his jacket kind of like the middle ground of all of it, and then I made his pants a little bit lighter. I believe I made his shoes the same color as his jacket, and then I made the sole of his shoes the same color as his hair, I think, which are the darkest parts of the drawing. Another part of his design that made things a little bit difficult were his eyes. So his eyes are a golden color, and there's not any other golden color throughout his design, so I decided to make the D that he was holding a similar color to his eyes. I believe I made it a little bit darker just to make it kind of more interesting, but I thought that would be a nice way to bring his gold color throughout the piece, because I thought his eyes would just stand out a little bit too much if I didn't do that. The way that I colored the letter, though, makes it look kind of metallic-y and gold, which is nice because I think that suits his character. Another thing that I really wanted to focus on was the shape of his face. Now, I don't think it necessarily matches his face shape in the show, but I like it, so I kept it. But I will be the first one to say that I can have some pretty bad same face syndrome, so I feel like it's something that I focus on for a while and then I start to get out of it, and then I get to a point where I draw faces that look different, but then as soon as I get to that point, I immediately forget everything that I learned and I fall back into the same habit of just it's frustrating, man. Like, I know what I need to do to get out of same face syndrome, and I try to do it, but for some reason, it just never sticks. If anybody has any advice for that, I would be very grateful. And I'm sure someone else reading the comments will be grateful too, because it's annoying. Something we all struggle with, and I just need help. Someone please save me. But I tried to give him a little bit of a different face shape from what I would normally draw. I made it a little bit more triangular and more thin. I usually draw very round cheeks, but I decided to chisel up his face a little bit. There's no real reason why, I don't think. At least not that I can remember when I'm recording this, but I just wanted to try something a little bit different, so that's what I went with. I also wasn't entirely sure what facial expression to give him. In the end, I went with something not necessarily bland, but just a lot more simple and less expressive than things that I would normally draw. I think that I was capturing his more common reserved side. I think that that's fine, but it's definitely a little bit different from what I would normally draw. Still looks like a facial expression that I would draw, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a little bit different, I think. As always, I didn't have any issue with the line art, really. After I make the line art and I lay down the base colors, I always go back and change the colors of the line art. And the way that I normally do that is I sample the color underneath the line art, and then I'll color that in. So like, let's say I'm coloring in something that's red. I'll sample that red color with the eyedropper tool, and then I will put the line art layer to multiply, and then I will preserve the opacity, so then that way when I color it, even though it's the same color, it'll appear darker, and I'm only coloring in the lines. This one, though, is a great example of how sometimes that just fails. So with colors like black, it's not really going to work out because the line art will just appear black, and I want it to be a little bit softer. And then for colors like white, you're just not going to see the line art. So what I did, I sampled the mid-tone-ish gray color on his neck piece and his ring, and I used that for pretty much all of the line art. Like, I used a different line art for his skin. I used just a random brown color that I picked because his skin is kind of pale to just sample it. But I used that gray color for pretty much all of the drawing because he does have just a black color scheme. Because his design is more on the simple side, I actually finished this drawing a lot faster than I expected to. Usually a drawing like this will take me all day to make, but I was able to finish it in like half a day, which is nice. Just like the line art, coloring him in was very easy. It was super easy. Like I said, I wanted to break up the tones of black a little bit, so that's just what I did. But other than that, there wasn't anything really troublesome about this drawing. I think the hardest part was just starting it, because like I said, I haven't drawn Soul Eater characters in a hot minute, so it took me a little while to get used to him and get a feel for his personality again, but in the end, I like it. Whenever I'm shading a drawing, I always shade with a color, and I just use that same color throughout the whole drawing, and then I'll just pick different tones. I'll pick different tones of that color, and I'll shade with those. For him, I believe I chose like very red purple, like it's almost red. And normally there's a reason why I pick those colors. It's either a color that's prominent throughout the design or it's a contrasting color. But for him, there's no reason because he just has a purely black color scheme. So yeah, I just did that. I mean, I could make up a reason right now to say that it's kind of similar to the yellow color in his eyes because it's also a warm color, but there was literally no reason why I chose it. I just picked it because I thought that it would look nice, and it did. And then I made the highlight colors way more on the red side. The way that I pick my shading colors and my highlight colors, pretty much just by guessing. Like I said, I picked like that reddish purple color for the shading. I'm editing this video and I'm failing to see where the purple is. Where is it, Oliver? Where's the purple? And then I'll play around with the hue and saturation bar. In the end, I did like that color for the shading. And then for the highlights, I sampled those same colors on the highlights and liked them more as a red. And so then I picked that. And then that's my whole choosing process. And then the same thing with the color overlays that I always pick for all of my drawings. For this one, I decided to go with a bluish purple. I think it's actually more towards the blue side, but again, no real reason other than I thought it looked nice. I think the reason that it looks nice though is because I used the purple in the shading. Purple update. There's still no purple. And then I used the red as the highlights, and so I think the blue kind of just helps tie those two together since they are a little bit of opposite colors. I think if there's one part of this drawing that I had the most difficult time drawing, it would be the hands. Absolutely no surprise there. We all have been there, we've all struggled with hands, but I don't know. I kind of forgot to thumbnail the letter in, so I pretty much just made it up as I was filming. I don't ever do that really, but I think you can kind of tell, like in the end result, you can kind of tell that him holding it was a little bit of an afterthought. At least I think so. It's not that bad, I still like the way that it turns out. And the hand that's like holding the letter, it's kind of behind the other hand, so it's a little bit hidden, but that kind of matters, but it's fine. This is fine. I also had a hard time drawing his shoes, much like many things about his design. His shoes are very different from what I would normally draw. I draw a lot of like laces and seams and details in my shoes, and he has very simple shoes. I decided to add these, like, I don't even know what you would call them, but on the sole of his shoes, I added just a little bit of a texture thing, just to make it more interesting and something closer to what I would draw. That being said though, it was still kind of difficult to draw because I don't draw feet in this position, like, ever, really. I mean, the letter is covering up most of it, so it's not as big of a deal as the hands, but I still would have liked to I wish I had a little bit more experience in drawing shoes like that. I also like to add, not really backgrounds to my drawing, but just background elements. It's usually just shapes. I think it's just a nice little touch to make your character not seem like they're just in a white void, like we all often draw. Something that I definitely used to do a lot, but I think doing something like this can just make it can make your drawing look a little bit more thoughtful, and I really like doing that. Although for him, again, I didn't really know what to do. I usually figure out what kind of background element I want as I'm drawing this, but then by the time I got to the background element, I realized I had no plan. In the end, I decided to stick with the monochromatic theme. I kind of wish I made it a little bit more yellow though, again, because I just think that the gold color is a little bit out of place with it only being in his eyes, and even with the letter colored that gold color, I still kind of wish I brought it into the background a little bit more, because it still seems a little bit out of place, but I do like the monochromatic thing. Just, I think it would have been nice if I just made it a little bit more goldy. So I decided to go with the grayish square with the darker grayish bar things. I don't know what to call them at all, but I also decided to add 3 white stripes in the corner of it just to tie in with his hair, because that's also a very prominent part of his design. At first I thought about putting them on the same side as his hair, but I decided to put it on the other side just for balance reasons. I couldn't really get it to look nice. Plus the way that the drawing is made, there's more weight on the side of his hair where the lines are. That sentence was a train wreck. Let me try that again. So when you look at him in your right side, that side of his body and everything has more weight to it. And so it just made more sense to me to put the stripes in the background on the left side to try and balance out the drawing a little bit more. I thought about leaving the outline that I drew around him pure white, but I ended up lowering the opacity to, I think, like 50%, I don't know. I can't really remember, but something around there, just to tone it down a little bit and not make it such a prominent feature in the drawing, but I still think that it was needed to separate him from the background since it is a very monochromatic piece. I just thought that it needed that little extra something to help separate him from the shapes. And then after that, I was done. I'm very happy with the end result, honestly. It was really nice to revisit these characters a little bit more. I think past me would probably be very happy with this. Again, in the video that may or may not have been my last video, depending on when this video is coming out. I really liked Soul Eater, and I really want to make little old me happy, so I think that I definitely did. I'm very happy with this end result. He was really fun to revisit, and that's something that I'm really happy that the series can do for me, is to revisit some old characters that I don't give as much love to anymore. So let me know what you think of this piece, because again, I really like it. Let me know if you have a character that you really like whose name starts with the letter D, and let me know if you like any characters from Soul Eater, or if you like this character, if you hate him. Whatever, I would love to hear it. And also a quick question, I've thought about making these alphabetical order series drawings. I've thought about making these alphabetical order drawings as prints available on my Redbubble shop. Well, I'm not sure because they are very specific pieces and I'm not sure how many people would like them. So I guess I'll leave a poll in the iCard for you to check out if you would buy them. It's okay to say no if you wouldn't want to. I promise I will not be offended. I just want to know if it would be worth uploading them. You can also feel free to say no if you just don't have money but you would buy them, because that's just helpful also to know. Because if nobody's going to buy them, whether it's they don't like them or they don't have money, it would just save me time uploading them. So let me know if you would like that. First two drawings in this series are pretty old at this point, but I'll still upload them if you guys want. And I'm kind of rambling again. What else is new? So I'm just going to end this video now. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you liked this drawing, or anything else. Feel free to leave any guesses for what the character for the letter E will be. I have some ideas. And also, if you are new to this channel, feel free to subscribe. I post new videos every single Wednesday and just other bonus videos whenever I can. I definitely try my best to. I make plenty of art on this channel. I make lots of art. I make illustrations like this. I usually draw my own original characters, but I do fan art like this every now and again. Obviously, with this series, they're all going to be fan art. And if you want to see more of my art, consider following me on social media. They will be posted on screen now and in the description box down below. If you have an Instagram account, that would be the best place to follow me because that is where I am most active. That is where I post my art, give behind the scenes on videos and such, and just am generally more active. So go follow me over there if you can. There'll also be some videos on screen now and linked in the iCard for you to check out if you want. I would really appreciate it if you could check those out, but no pressure, I guess. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye. Why didn't you stop?